for themselves. And it was right during the time of 1965 when we sent all the soldiers there and we started the war officially. That's the comic book. But like, I had no idea about Debbie or galactic races, but it's the fact that that was in my head and I created it not knowing where it came from. It's kind of weird.
That's an interesting connection. That's really cool. Well, I think this... All right, I think we got to back up because this whole Galactic Federation meeting thing is definitely where my story went. Do you guys mind if I start with my origin story?
Jump on in.
You guys seem to be a little older than me in the Galactic scale.
But that's fine. You'll catch up.
I will. I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'm still an old soul. All right.
Yeah, but you're not as old as us.
No, you guys are slightly older. You know, it's fine though. A little more wrinkly. All right. So
I am not.
I moisturize.
I'm a Syrian. And I'm proud to be a Syrian. Before I start, I just want to say that, like, my entire life, I've obsessed with sci-fi. So I've been obsessed with Star Trek, Star Wars, anything science fiction, Ender's Game, any great sci-fi book I've read.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted my life to be a science fiction adventure. I've always wanted to be the hero of my own science fiction journey. And in some way, I'm trying to create that with my life and the things I'm into from this podcast, the shows I'm involved in, the movies I love, everything. And I've always yearned for it. And after this reading, I realized that my life is a science fiction epic adventure. And I am the hero of my own fucking journey, and it's awesome.
Our combined stories make the best sci-fi TV show
That's
of all
true.
time.
Amazing. Yeah.
We're like friends. We'll get to this. We're like friends that from a long time ago decided to help change things for the better and sacrificed our own lives and energy to make that happen. It's fucking fascinating.
That's so cool.
And so it gave me the chills. She hit me with a couple things that were really fascinating that really made me go, holy shit, lady, you know what you're talking about, Debbie. Bring it to me, Debbie. So I was a Syrian.
Preach!
The great news is, first of all, not...
Sirius, the dog star. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
The first thing I noticed with psychics and these things is, like, if every one of your lives is like, you're like the Jesus figure in every single life, you're like so important, immediately I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. But that's not how mine went. If you live thousands of lives, though, one of them's probably going to be important, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how mine went.
Mine were all important.
So,
All of yours were important. You're just like queen, cat lady,
Yeah,
and
that makes
everything,
sense.
just like slicing things.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's a snort podcast. But I was a Syrian. My first couple of lives, Syrians are known to be healers, by the way. They're known to be healers, which is interesting because I was a psych major and a bio major in college, but then I abandoned it for creativity.
Huh.
But that'll make sense in a second when I get back to it. So
Okay.
a lot of Syrians are healers. I was born after the Great War, after you guys were obviously giving into the Draco and letting them do what they want to you.
I was not
That was a dig.
doing
That
that.
was a dig.
listen, we did what we had to.
You
all right?
did. All right. No judgment.
Maybe Matt did, but I did.
All right. Fine. Whatever. I cleaned up
I
after you
escaped.
fools.
That's fine.
So my first couple lives, I was just like a tech guy. I helped with the shield defense systems. We were really worried about all the information we lost from the wars, and that we were just trying to regain this knowledge, and we were trying to protect the system. And my lives were kind of boring. But what I realized was, one, I didn't like I liked the idea of healing, but I wasn't born to be a healer. I was born to express and communicate ideas. I was born to be creative and communicate what is happening to the world, which is exactly what I do in my life now, which is interesting. She had no previous knowledge of that. I thought that was cool. So the first couple of lifetimes were boring. I was helping with the shield defense systems, and once I kind of figured that out karmically, my life started to change. So I had multiple lives as a Syrian. I wasn't just one and done. I wasn't just a Lyrian and gone. I had a bunch of those, and eventually I got to the point where I ended up being a representative at a council that hold on, I wrote this down. I'm going to find what it's called. It's weird. So like a lot of science fiction might be based on some sort of truth.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And like Star Trek, they have the Galactic Federation and groups of benevolent.
Yeah.
Beings who get together.
It's because we're older. We know words.
That's right. You know words a little better. I'm just a newbie here. Come together to help change the galaxy. And it looks like that story, Star Trek, is probably based off of older stories, of older traditions, like, Roddenberry. So my first important lifetime was I was the representative from Sirius, who went to this meeting where a group of people from different races, all these different beings, got together.
My meeting.
Your meeting and we all came together to help the universe. I didn't get as much details as you did, but the one thing that came out of it was we all decided to help with the Earth ascension process.
Yes.
And in that group of people who was there are everyone that's in your soul group. So I don't know if people have read Journey of the Souls or Destiny of the Souls. Those books are great. Talk about not just past life regressions, but in between life regressions, and they talk about how there's soul groups. And what happens is our soul groups are there, and we all recognize each other because we were fourth dimensional beings. We weren't third dimensional like human, where it's hard to recognize that you're something greater than you are. So we were actually more evolved before this lifetime. We've actually sacrificed to be in this body to help this ascension because we were more powerful beings. All of us on this planet were. So in this meeting, we all agreed that, one, we recognize each other. So not just you guys, a lot of people that we work with in the space all agreed to help at one point to help with Earth's ascension. And we knew what we were going to do. So that was an important moment in my lifetime, in my lifetimes, that led to my current incarnations on Earth. I thought that was super fascinating. And the reason why it struck me is because she just Debbie nailed that, like, I was a creative person who had a science background, and I love science, and I'm really into it, and I actually studied it and was like, I memorized every bone in the body. I was a psych major, a human bio major, and all this stuff, and I was going pre-med at one point. I was going to be a psychologist at one point. I was going to do all this shit. And eventually I was like, you know what? I'm going to make videos about weird shit. But we're related in a scientific way. I don't know. I'm not like anti-science in any way. It just really struck me. So, and that really gave me the chills when she was like, these certain people, they're in your soul group, and you're all agreed together to help Earth ascension and to reincarnate as a lesser being who can't really grasp it in the human body to be here today. That gave me the chills.
Cool. So I had a similar deal. Where it was a lot about creativity, but it was about communication. So I started off as a communications person, and I was used that skill throughout a couple of lifetimes, but realized that through creativity I could communicate with people. And I think it sounded like my life goal was more about creating a balance. And creating the balance between the yin and the yang, the female and the male. That was kind of, my soul's goal in life was to kind of create this balance through communicating with creativity. So it was similar, and I guess it makes sense that we kind of we ended up in the same sort of field of, filmmaking
and weird shit altogether,
weird craziness, and
I mean,
trying to open people up to more possibilities,
right
against the physical world.
And that was the same thing with me. She said the reason this is why you have to do what you do is because that's what you would do. You couldn't speak to people that couldn't communicate with you, so you would have to find a way to communicate with them through art and creativity. And so that's why you've chosen to keep doing that and to keep moving people. That's how you feel you're going to move the bar with how people are going to be awake, by getting them to understand the human story. I don't believe there's anything I think it's true that when you say there's no such thing as an original story. And here's why. Once she told me about my days in Andromeda, and I had published this comic book. By the way, if anybody can find it in this podcast, that would be amazing, because you can't find it. It's not for sale anywhere.
I have a copy.
Well, I gave it to you.
I'm going to put it on eBay, and it's going to sell for $500. Starting bid.
There's a lot of boobs in it.
Yeah.
So
that's good, yeah.
I'll give 7,000.
There's boobies in it. Okay, carry on.
But the reason I say that is because everything that you as a creative person are making as a story is probably something you already experienced in another lifetime.
Ooh,
even if you're experiencing it a little bit in this lifetime, the depth that you go is something you've experienced in another lifetime.
Whoa.
And because it wasn't just that comic book, the stuff she was telling me, I have scripts about that I've been writing about since I was I finished a story when I was like 12 about some space battle. I had no knowledge of it. So it's something that's not original, meaning I've experienced it I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah. No,
So
totally.
you think
I feel
about that.
the same exact way about my entire life, about everything I'm into or not into, or like, what are you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, so what was your holy shit moment during the reading that you were like, oh man, that's me? Like, I've had people tell me that's what I do, and that's crazy that you picked up on that.
Oh, it was a science thing. It was like you like science, but then you eventually were like, you threw it to the side, and we're like, you need to communicate science or communicate the truth or communicate something that's going to change people's opinions on what's going on in the world.
But you
Build
do
people
that.
up.
I feel like you do that.
No, I do. Yeah, no, I do.
Yeah.
That's why that was a moment in the podcast that connected me. It was like, oh, it made like that's why I feel like my life purpose is. I'm all about purpose in life. I'm always about what are you supposed to do with your life. The biggest
Right.
regret on
Why the
everyone's
hell are we here?
Exactly. Everyone's biggest regret is spending enough time with family, not spending enough time with family, and not spending too much time.
Oh, you've met my family.
With family, or not following your true purpose, not really going for it. And when you're dying, apparently that comes really clear that you didn't follow it. So I have been driven
Right.
by that my whole life, and this reading was a confirmation or another reconfirmation. Like I already knew it, but it made me go like, yeah, like I need to get out there and even go harder on what I'm supposed to do in my life. You
Right.
know, like I'm supposed to communicate the things in this life that most people who are a little more not close-minded, I don't mean to say that, like who just aren't open to it yet, to like open their mind. And it's okay with ridicule. It's okay to take ridicule. Like I'm more brazen than ever to get out there and talk about weird stuff, to explore weird things, to communicate weird things.
Yeah.
I'm not
Good, yeah.
scared. Like no longer am I as worried about what people think or don't think. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't care anymore. I'm like, I want to make some crazy stuff, and people
Jump
are
on
gonna,
in, yeah.
yeah. Like even this whole experience talking about like this is like beyond 101. You know, like this is an epic sci-fi narrative. That's what it is. But it's the
Right.
truth. I've always felt it my whole life.
But
I really have.
don't you think that we've experienced this with so many people? Because, like, okay, Star Wars is basically based on this battle we're talking about. It's called the Orion Wars, right? This idea, like, if you
Well, it's the oldest story ever told. It's like the light
Yeah.
versus the dark.
Yeah, the light versus the dark. But
Yeah.
but anything that has to do with intergalactic travel and space wars and all this kind of that stuff, like Star Trek, like that stuff is based on what we're talking about. And it's not just Debbie and us. Like there's a writer called Anton Parks who actually, if you look him up, if you just Google him, he'll give you a chart of the creation of the universe and the wars and where it took everybody in. And it literally gives you a lineage all the way down to the Egyptian gods and how they came to the planet.
Oh, does that? You've read that, obviously. Does
Yeah.
that line up with what Debbie's saying as
Yeah.
well? Wow,
Like
okay.
verbatim.
And Mateus. It's all.
And Mateus, who's a Spanish speaker. He's from Argentina.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. So, I mean, I was going to say my, my crazy moment, and it was only because you brought this up recently, and I've heard this before about myself, whereas, like, my goal was to create balance and to bring people together.
You're
And-
great at that, by the way.
and
You
so-
are a great friend.
Yeah, that's-
every group of friends needs a Matt O'Connor.
Yeah, so that's what she said. It was like my like I bring people together and I help communicate ideas and sort of like balance the yin and the yang wherever you know it's getting out of hand on one side or the other, and trying what were you saying to me like the other day, like the glue. There's
You
the
are.
glue that
Aw.
like brings people together.
You do.
kind of thing,
Without
yeah.
Matt, I don't think people we work with would be like as close as friends. You force us to go out. You force us to hang out. You're always trying to get people together.
Yeah.
It is like a unique
Way
skill
too
that I
handsy.
appreciate.
Just too handsy.
A little handsy. See, it's funny. Is you were a little skeptical about the whole past life regression and the whole
Yeah, I
Akashic
mean, I'd
record reading.
never
But that's
really
interesting.
done
You didn't say
anything like
that
that.
yet. Like that is interesting. Why would someone
Yeah.
know that about you?
Yeah,
You know,
that
like,
was the thing
I didn't say
that
shit
kind of was
about
like,
you there.
huh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were a little like, meh. And now you're kind of.
Well, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I've always wanted to do like a psychic reading or anything like this, and this is the first time I've ever
Oh,
done
you never
it.
even had a psychic reading?
No, I've had nothing. Anything.
Wow.
But I've always
Oh.
wanted to do it, so I'm so glad that Debbie was my first. She busted my
Just go all in.
yeah. No, she busted
Your-
my psychic cherry, and
Your
I'm-
intergalactic cherry?
I'm so happy that she did that. But yeah, no, it was like fascinating, and I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know. Sorry, was that too far? Did I cross the line?
Oh, no,
I'm sorry, Debbie.
That's gold.
But it's fine.
That's gold.
We all knew what was coming.
We
But,
did. We sensed it. We're like, I don't know. I feel uncomfortable. That's the best comedy, friend.
All right. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect, and she gave me holy cow, like a great reading that I connected to on some level, and it was like, wow, what is this on another level? And it was I was enthralled by the whole thing. So
That's cool.
yeah.
I think it's kind of cool how we all know each other. Because I got my reading a month before you guys.